This week on the Salesforce Admins Podcast, we're diving into the future of AI-powered customization with Brinkal Janani. Now, Brinkal is a product manager here at Salesforce, and he's leading the charge on Lightning App Builder and AI-generated apps. Today, specifically, we're talking about Generative Canvas. Forward-looking statement. I bet it's going to get renamed. So we're going to call it Generative Canvas for now. But literally, watch the video that's in the show notes. This thing is so cool because it's going to reimagine how admins, how our users can interact with data and build dynamic experiences. And my two most favorite words, without code. Now, before we jump in, I want to make sure you're subscribed to the Salesforce Admins Podcast. That way, when a new episode like this drops, boom, you can listen to it. I don't want you to miss out. So be sure to pay attention in whatever app you're using to either press that follow or subscribe button. So with that, let's get Brinkal on the podcast. So Brinkal, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mike, for having me.
Well, we're fresh off the heels of TDX and, with AI and everything going on, I feel like the metaphor I've used of how fast technology changing is like jumping out of a plane. It's moving very fast. I feel like it's like jumping out of a plane and skydiving super fast towards the earth because with AI, everything's changing. And we're going to talk about some of the really cool stuff that you're working on the platform. But let's get started with just kind of learning a little bit more about Brinkal and what you do at Salesforce. So why don't you tell us what you do and some of the stuff that you work on?
Sure, Mike. As you guys know, I'm Brinkal Janani, and I've been at Salesforce for a little over than 9 years now. And I've throughout my career at Salesforce, I've played various roles. Like I started my career as a software engineer in test, eventually transitioned to full stack software engineer. And now I'm a product manager overseeing a couple of product portfolios, namely Lightning App Builder and generating apps using AI. And that's where my focus is right now.
Yeah, I feel like everybody at Salesforce is working on AI stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad to see like whatever we're building at Salesforce is for the better. So I'm glad that you give the analogy. But that also means like we're doing something that's fast-paced and would provide incremental value to our customers.
Absolutely. So you want to talk about, and this is where I will insert forward-looking statement because I feel like this is probably going to change names. So
Yeah.
as of this recording, it's currently known as what? Generative Canvas? Is that right, Brinkal?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Let's talk about as known as Generative Canvas right now.
Yeah, so I'm glad to talk about this project in particular because there's a history to it. I don't know most of you know this or not, but I'm familiar that admins love concepts such as dynamic forms, Lightning Pages, and Lightning App Builder. I mean, those are some of the popular features that admins love to like play and use. And one of the fun fact that I wanted to also share was like I was one of the original engineers on the team who built dynamic forms when it went GA'd. So I have quite a bit of understanding on like the expectations that admins have from the no-code tools like Lightning App Builder and the experiences they ship to our end users, right? And for years, I've seen Salesforce admin utilize technologies such as Lightning App Builder, dynamic forms, even page layouts to control how the UI appears, period. And these no-code tools are the best and have been the best in what they do. But it's also nearly impossible to anticipate the full spectrum that the end users would need in terms of data and workflows, which is where Generative Canvas as a technology becomes really important. It unlocks a whole new way of interacting with data and workflow. So you are like the general concept of Generative Canvas is it goes beyond static user interfaces to a more interactive and dynamic ones where you're talking to an agent and having those responses stored as Lightning components on the layout. That's the crux of it.
Yeah, this is one of those where the audio podcast has limitations, but I was watching the video and I'm thinking like what you're working on is so far into the future because where we're at now with agents and admin building agents is we add the agent, enable them, and they can be anywhere in Salesforce, and we just ask them a text question. But this is actually really building a visual, well, you call it a canvas, a visual canvas of chats plus also text and like documents, right? Meeting notes.
Yeah, that is correct. And I think what would really help understand what the concept is it's a good example. A good example that we are starting off from is like tackling meeting preparation use cases. We all have been in situations like where we have a back-to-back pack schedules where we don't even get enough time to see who we are meeting next, right? And I think that's true for most of us who will be listening in into this podcast or have been in this situation, right? So imagine a sales executive who is handling multiple accounts and it's like literally in back to back situations with meetings when it comes to like talking to these accounts and customers. And what really resonates what you've seen with our customers is like a very personalized approach, a personalized pitch. And executives not having enough time to prep that pitch or even prepare for that meeting has been the biggest disadvantage. And even if they do get time, they usually like go to multiple UIs or even leverage multiple tools to be able to create that insight.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why this was the first use case we felt is the best fit to tackle with Generative Canvas. Because Generative Canvas will make it super easy for any executive, starting with sales executive, to focus on the job to be done and not on the tool. And the reason I say this is because like it's a single page application where they are interacting with the agents on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, like agents are responding via text, via components that you put and organize on the UI. And not just that, you can personalize this layout or UI by moving these responses slash components around on the canvas and even resizing them. So it exactly fits the way you would have imagined the UI to look like and carry this UI into the meeting so you have something to talk about. You have talking points to break the ice, and even you have insights if you want to cross sell or upsell any of the products. So I think that example really nails the value of what we are trying to achieve with Generative Canvas. And obviously, it's a start, and we're going to grow from this use case to multiple other use cases. But hopefully, this shows the value.
Yeah, so I think the really cool part is you're thinking of quantitative and qualitative data because a lot of that, there's quantitative data, there's stuff that we can actually see in Salesforce, like you brought up the sales example, like number of opportunities or sum total of opportunities on this account. But the second part where your canvas kind of brings it together is all the qualitative data, which is all of that information, the chats, the extra documents, the insight that people need when they walk into a room to kind of have that deeper level conversation as opposed to just the data that's in front of them.
That is correct. And which is why I also feel like the future experiences is going to be both like a static experience
Uh-huh.
and a dynamic one. Like will I foresee living us in a very hybrid world where technologies such as Generative Canvas will exist and coexist with technologies such as Lightning Pages.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point on Canvas, it's beyond static data, right? Like you get this like insights and summaries that AI is able to generate
Right.
and tease from the vast pool of data that we have in Data Cloud and at Salesforce. And I think that's the essence of it. Not just that, but once we start building in and start pulling data from public domain, you should be able to also like get that data on the canvas along with the data that's stored in CRM in your org.
So what would be just help me elaborate on that? What would be data pulling from the public domain? What would be example of that?
Example would be like I like to learn more about the competitors of my current account. Who are these people? Like who are these accounts and what are they doing? So using that data, like just having that competitive analysis and the most present one, right? Which we which can only be learned by pulling the data from the public domain.
Hmm.
The sales executive can use this information and potentially create a cross-sell pitch or upsell pitch for the existing customer. Just like having that lens, having that view inside can really like help them create a personalized pitch for their customers.
Right. Do you envision, and this is all like me just thinking like, oh, this is kind of cool. So once somebody creates a canvas, let's say for an account, would you envision that they would go back to that and then of course it would live update? Because obviously if you're pulling in like news articles, it could do that, right? Like say 6 months comes down the line and the customer's up for a renewal, you'd want to go back to that same canvas that you used to close the deal, right?
That's a great point, Mike. And I think one thing that I also wanted to touch about generative canvas is that
Mm-hmm.
these canvases, as you said, are persistent, which means like once you create this canvas, they are there. They are part of your they're part of your org, and you can always revisit them. And obviously, since canvases are based on data, both static and like data coming from public domain, you would want to make sure they're still relevant, right? Because even the record details might have changed.
Right.
The number of related records might have changed. Like a whole lot of data, the data that existed when the canvas was created might be completely different from what exists right now. So having an ability to refresh the canvas entirely would be essential to keeping canvas not just persistent but also relevant.
Yeah. What, just on a non generative canvas note, you mentioned in your intro that you'd also worked on dynamic forms, which I love to demo because I'm from that period of time when you couldn't have dynamic forms. Well, you could. My dynamic form was two different page layouts and a workflow rule to flip the page layout. That was my faking dynamic forms. What got you into the visual part of working in technology? I mean, it's obviously something you're really good at and something you're really passionate about.
So I think I need to share this. Like when I was interviewing with Salesforce, I was actually interviewing the day right before my wedding.
Oh, whoa.
And the only reason I did this, and I'll never do this, obviously, like again,
Well, I hope you don't have to get married again. So,
yeah,
just in
right,
case
like
your wife's
that's
listening.
hope. Uh, is because I knew like what Salesforce was doing and what it continues doing. It's like creating this like products which also like create this community and just like up levels whole lot of folks with the career insights and like the career paths, and that is huge, and that like really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And ever since my career sales was, as I said, like although I've played multiple roles, my focus has always been delivering value for admins through no code tools. And specifically in my case, it's Lightning App Builder. So being an engineer or being a product manager, my focus has been like, how do I help admins unlock value for the end users through UI using no code tools? And that has been my problem statement from day one at Salesforce. And which is why it's super exciting to see how the feature set, how the technology is evolving from beyond the static layouts in terms of landing pages to a more dynamic world where everything is personalized, everything's AI driven. But as I said earlier, I also feel like the reality, the future is mostly hybrid with both technologies coexisting seamlessly.
When you say hybrid, you mean humans and technology, or what do you mean by hybrid?
When I say hybrid, I think I see a world where it's not completely one-sided where you only have static experiences or you only have dynamic experiences.
Hmm.
When I say hybrid, I mean like I see a world where you have both kind of experiences, like probably start from a static experience to a landing page and eventually transition to a more dynamic experience through technologies such as Generative Canvas, where you're conversing with a tool, where you're conversing with an agent and updating the layout on the fly.
Yeah. Okay. And everything turned out okay at the wedding, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Okay. Good.
safe to say that.
Well, we know the job thing worked out because you're on the podcast. So I don't know I've ever had anybody on that interviewed before their wedding day. But good for you. When you sit down and think of all of the stuff that AI has to interact with now and what you're working on for this generative canvas, I think, I'm not an engineer, but it's very easy to get caught up in the here and now. How are you trying to plan for 2 to 3 year out technology that you might not even know exists, and pull that in for the next generation of generative canvas? Like, I mean, you have to know you're building something out of Minority Report, right?
And I think that's a great question again, Mike. To be honest with you, in this period of time, it's extremely difficult to even look out like 2 years out in advance, just because the pace of technology is changing so drastically. But one thing that remains constant, regardless of what period we are in, are the problems that you want to solve for your customer base. Those are not going away. Eventually, technology needs to be able to solve customer problems. So, my focus always has been less on the technology itself, but figuring out the right problem set to solve in the right period of time using the right technology. And that's what I want to achieve. And that's what I've always been trying to achieve through different set of technologies. So eventually in time, like technologies might change, but you still have the same problems set to deal with. And and like solving some problem sets might become just easier as in when technologies evolve. And I think we just need to keep on revisiting that list of problems that you have that you want to solve for your customers.
Yeah. Last question, because I threw some hard ones at you, but you also came with the wedding thing. That's pretty unexpected. When you're, I mean, man, this is so like in the future, we're going to have flying cars, but we don't know. Um, when you're planning through and looking for inspiration, this is the one thing that I think I learned it from a long time ago. I had a guest on the podcast that talked about board games and how they found inspiration in board games when they were creating a product in Salesforce. Where do you go? Because you work in very visual products. Where do you go to find inspiration for ideas, like for generative canvas that you're working on?
That's a tough question again, Mike.
Well, I don't ask easy ones. Nobody comes on for easy questions.
All right, point taken. Uh, I think the answer is twofold. One is very personal and one is more cooperative. I start with the personal one. I'm also a father to a 3-year-old daughter,
Oh boy.
and it's been quite a journey and mostly good. The reason she is an inspiration is because it's so amazing to see like how a creature of such small size can learn and absorb from visual experiences, from sensory experiences so quick. And depending on what their experience is, the message that they learn is drastically different. And I know it seems like a very far-fetched connection, but if you tie the dots, it's actually it's not that far. So that is like my daughter has been an inspiration, just to keep my mindset more agile and rapidly adopt with changing environment
Mhm.
and learn from it, right? And keep on delivering value. So that has been like something that I'm really grateful for. The other thing is like a lot of people, we have amazing set of people in the world like right now, and everybody's doing something very amazing. So just staying connected and in the know on what's happening around you also serves like a good idea for inspiration.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still, I think a lot of us are still wrapping our heads around. I have a good friend of mine has a young child too, and he told me the other day he just ran up to the TV and started touching it, like expecting it to do things, much like his phone, and that to me is like whoa, because that's the world they live in. As a parting gift, if admins are, definitely thinking about Agent Force and AI and everything that they can do in Salesforce, What would your best advice be for admins around getting ready for just AI and Agentforce and kind of learning, this new world that we live in?
I've always felt for Salesforce, the local community groups that we have, the trailblazer communities that we have, Dreamforce, TDX, and just like one-on-one engagement with product managers and MVPs have been a very solid ecosystem that has helped spread the knowledge and just up-level everyone by sharing knowledge, talking about the problems, and talking about like how do we like unlock or solve for some of these problems using the technology that Salesforce has right now. And I think it will be vital for us and like especially product managers at Salesforce being part of those communities and local groups and talking about the projects, the technology, the product that they're working on and helping customers connect with it. I think that would be a key, not just for like success of products, but also for success of our customers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it can be oftentimes very isolating to sit in your office and feel like you must be the only person working on this right now, and you're not. And getting out to a user group and hearing stories and thinking, oh, you just need to change a couple terms, but we're working on the same problem is and seeing different approaches to things is always very helpful. Brinkal, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I can't wait to have to go back and edit this once we rename Generative Canvas 3 or 4 more times.
And yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me. This has been a pleasure.
It'd be great. So that was a fun conversation with Brinkal. I'll be honest, I don't know of any podcast guest that may have interviewed the day before their wedding. Usually there's things to do. You know what? Brinkal is like, I'm going to work at Salesforce and build the future of applications. So I'm so glad everything's working out for him. But man, I can't wait to see your reaction to some Generative Canvas stuff. Again, I'll include all the links in the help and the video to watch it. If it works for you, go for it. I think they're going to roll it out even farther, forward-looking statement. But this is going to be cool. If you enjoyed this episode, hey, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow admin. You can tap the dots in Apple Podcasts and click share episode. And then that way you can post it on whatever social platform you're on or text it to a friend, or share it at a community user group. I'd be a fan of that. Of course, all the resources, including a transcript, are in the show notes for this episode. And where are those? Well, those are your one-stop shop for everything admin, which is admin.salesforce.com. Now, don't forget to join the conversation over in the Admin Trailblazer group. Don't worry, link is in the show notes. Where's the show notes? admin.salesforce.com. Look at that. It's like we thought about this ahead of time. I promise we did. All right. Until next time, we'll see you in the cloud.